When Eric asked me to speak with a title like this, I was puzzled at first. I was kind of like, so like take heart, don't lose heart. And he was like, no, it's more about keeping the passion, keeping your soul while you're working. And so as I thought about like if I was to have a conversation about 30 years worth of professional experiences, there's just a whole lot that you could get into and you could talk for hours and hours. And that's not what this is intended to be. So how could I approach it? So I'm not a great speaker, as they might say. So I thought I would just give you a quick flyby. So sorry if I do move sort of fast, but the intention was to sort of provide a look at what happened in the course of 30 years, kind of the high points or interesting points, and then provide opportunity to ask questions if you want to. Otherwise, it'd be really awkward with me just standing up here. So without further ado, we'll start back in 1995. So these are broken into 5 chapters. They're all sort of different time lengths, but they kind of have themes. So this is the first one. So I start with the timeline here, and I'm going to read because otherwise I'll ramble and it'll be really not as efficient as I could be. So timeline, we graduated college. We're blessed to have the means to fund a design business, so we decided to do it. 4 of us right out of college. We start off in an 800 square foot office in the James building next to attorneys and accountants and a very fishy guy from Colombia. We move a couple times and we end up kind of right down the street here at 1401 William Street was one of our offices. And then after 3 short years, we break up the partnership. Yeah, it was kind of sad. Okay, so there's several themes or motifs or feelings, things going on at this time period, which I'll talk about, but it's kind of dull if we just stand up here and I'm a designer. I like pictures, so I just have a little slideshow of stuff that we made, but I'm not really talking about the stuff that we made, if that makes sense. So, we're thrilled to be building something new in a new city with friends and exploring uncharted creative territory. It's just that thrill of excitement of starting something. We are a little apprehensive because we face a lot of unknowns. You know, you're of course afraid of failure, which ended up happening, and disappointing clients and friends. And then there was just this giant degree of making stuff up. We unnecessarily invented our own way of working to figure out how to be financially viable because we were just out of school. We never worked anywhere in the industry. We didn't know. So that took a lot of time. And then as inexperienced newcomers, we prioritize client approval over doing the best or the most strategic work. So that didn't result in all the best stuff. We then spent what I thought was a very large chunk of our time sorting out personal disagreements and internal differences. A lot. Our overcommitment to the business had several large negative effects on us, and one of it was on impact on our personal lives because we were very imbalanced, the work-life imbalance. And then after I caused the partnership to dissolve by trying to improve the work-life balance, I was disheartened at the partnership's end, and I was left questioning my career choice. So that leads, oh, and one of the questions you could ask at the end is, why are we still not using this website design? I mean, come on, people. That was such good stuff. Okay, so chapter 2, Interlude. Okay, I enroll in the Book Arts program, MFA program, at the University of Alabama. Through AIGA events, I get to meet Stefan Sagmeister a couple of times, and then we bring him to Chattanooga to give his talk, Can Design Touch a Heart? He stayed at our house. I take a sabbatical, and we move to Italy 6 days after September 11th happened, so that was a little different than we thought it would be. We come back, I open a new office, also just down the road, right next to the Firestone, and I start collaborating with Brad DeSherry. Okay, the themes of this chapter. Mysterious. Okay, so despite our 3 long years of effort, I was very proud of very little that we had ever made. So I was burnt out, I was directionless, I didn't know what I wanted to do with the business next or myself. So I sort of put the business on a suspended animation. And then encouraged by my wife, Peg, who's here somewhere, I decided to pursue a new passion in letterpress and book arts, what everybody goes to do when they're feeling depressed and burnout. And so then I had experience to do personal work and student work at the MFA program, and it really helped me reconnect with my creativity. I found I was just doing things very differently than I did in the profession. And so I rediscovered a joy in design, and I became a little curious about trying to try it back at work. So that following summer, I shifted the focus to serving clients real needs rather than guessing their expectations. And this new approach really worked out. It led to successful projects both in my mind and in the client's mind, and we won a few design awards for whatever that's worth. And Paul Seiler, creative director on this project, he's right there if you want to talk to him afterwards. We did a lot of crazy things for Paul. He's a very great person to work with. I highly recommend it. Okay, we're moving along here, chapter 3. So this is 2004 to 2010. In this timeline, I finished my MFA thesis project, teach a class, do client work, and do a month-long internship with Sagmeister, all in May of 2004. That was a crazy month. I started collaborating on client work with other people, which is new in this time period. And that leads to hiring of first-time employees. The studio caught fire. The recession hits. I'm tricked into co-founding Chattanooga FC, and I scale back to just me. Okay, so the themes of this chapter. Sorry I'm old-fashioned and have this printed out and I'm wearing glasses. I feel very old. So let's move to the pretty pictures. After years of solo work, I slowly began to trust and collaborate with others again. By watching Stefan Sagmeister work, I kind of learned to focus on doing what I was best at and then relying on other strengths to do the other sort of work. And so I started to embrace that collaboration spirit. Really, thanks a lot to 3 people, Grant Dotson, Matt Greenwell, and Caleb Ludwig. I was able to find co-creating with talented people would bring back a lot of creative energy into this process, and that sort of teamwork was really exciting. Also, we worked with incredibly inspiring clients that had high standards, and that really pushed us to do a lot of our best work. So these projects fueled creativity and enthusiasm and an eagerness to see what came out of it. And during this time period, we did this crazy thing where we would only propose one solution per project. On the downside, the leading and the presenting of the work caused significant stress and physical anxiety for me. I often gave presentations after puking in the bathroom. True. And then the 2008 recession hit us late because a lot of the trade work that we did, so it was kind of a cash flow thing. So it forced me to just kind of go back solo in 2010 instead of working with other people. And I would do work for really low budgets, like $500, done. But it worked out. So, chapter 4. So I move in to co-work with another company. It's a really nice relationship, really helps our company grow. I win a nice award, that was very nice. I hire someone full-time, which then turns into 2 people, then 3 people, then 4 people, etc. We move a couple times, and we finally sort of end up the last period of Widgets and Stone at 800 Broad Street. It was a very great building that we got to design. And then we lost a $480,000 a year client in a rather unpleasant turn of events. That was exciting. So, themes that come out of this chapter. Oh, that's the wrong slide, sorry. You're getting a cheat ahead. Now, the whole thing is ruined. So these themes come out of this chapter. So tight timelines and budgets required fast, flexible, less polished design processes and more options. So no more one solution type things. In spite of this, consistently doing my best led to better clients, more trust, more collaboration, and increasing opportunities. But as the business grew, I took on more leadership / management responsibilities and did less hands-on design. So as our small team expanded, I had to lead a growing group of employees and contractors, sometimes up to as many as 15 people, depending on the project. Of course, as you can guess, managing payroll and cash flow by a designer for that many people could be a little bit stressful, and it was. But I have to say that being on a team of people is just so much better than doing things by yourself, as you have people to really celebrate the successes with, but then also people you can kind of help console you when you have your failures. And it just feels a real camaraderie. And then lastly, sort of having a friend and a longtime colleague leave in a rather hostile and litigious fashion felt like a betrayal. It was painful and disheartening. And this time I beat the work. Awkward. There we go. All right, last chapter. Okay, so in this one, we magically inserted an extra year in the timeline. I don't know why. COVID hits. Of course, everybody knows that. Peg saves Widgets in Stone. I was ready to shut it down, and she said, that's not happening. And so with her help, we made it through. We kept all our employees and had our loans forgiven and paid off. And then probably as things are getting back to normal, we have 5 people leave in a period of 6 months, which from a 9-person team, that was a little bit of an impact. Then we merged with Whiteboard. We merged 2 brand teams. We merged a 3rd time, and then we just reinvent the whole agency model. No biggie. So themes from this chapter and the final little batch of stuff. So on top of that employee leaving, the loss of our biggest client by far left me reeling. I was outraged by what I felt like unfair treatment. There was all sorts of fear and doubt because you just started to second guess, like, did I really do all these things wrong? Am I that horrible of a person? And then going kind of through that and coming out and then going into COVID, and there was just this incredible uncertainty. We had all of our clients were in hospitality and food service, and so everything just stopped, and it was really a miracle that we were kind of able to make it through. And so, after all that, making it through COVID, I found that even positive departures, the done well, and goodbyes could be still pretty painful after investing so much care and effort into creating a great space for people. But then we had this unexpected merger interest from Whiteboard, and that offered a potential path forward and gave us a lot of hope and excitement. And since that worked out, joining Whiteboard brought us new partners and friends, I hope, resources, skills, and a sense of security, which has just been really amazing. And then you get in and you start to do the work, and you start to feel this pressure of like, well, wait a minute, what if we're not as good as they thought we were? What happens then? Would they even say anything? I don't know. And then you have the doubt of not living up to the expectations, and then lastly, we're at the point right now. Mark, you can speak to it too, since you've done it with me. It feels like we've hit an equilibrium, and we're kind of finally able to start to think about the future and think about the vision and really focus on this idea that Eric has of making vision visible, which I think is awesome. So to close out my talking part, I left out all the people mostly. I touched on a few of them, but these are kind of all, it would take a long time to talk about. But Benjamin Dix is right here, folks. He's on the slide. But there are a lot of people who helped make Widgets in Stone what it was, either in small parts or large parts. And then I don't know why I put this in there. We won some awards. Some things that don't even exist anymore, which is really interesting. I got an award from that. What is that? It's not around anymore. Okay, so here's where we kind of enter the question and answer time period. In case there wasn't much to go on, I'll give you a few things you could ask about. But You can ask kind of anything. You can even talk to other people in the room. We can give them microphones, and I don't have to say anything. But that's my history in the past 30 years. So, anybody? Oh, we got one. One. Oh, you're gonna have to shout.
I'm just curious, what's your favorite font?
My favorite font. Well, that would be like having a favorite child, and I don't think I could do that. Favorite font family. I don't have one. I used to be able to do that, but then Stefan Sagmeister made me feel stupid and childish for caring so much about fonts, and so I've kind of tried to break that. Although I've thought many times, like, well, what font is that person talking in? That's a very strange thing. Sorry, I'll think about it and see if I can get one. I don't have one right now, though.
Did you have one that you ordered for the Chattanooga signs?
For
Chattanooga street signs?
no,
No.
that's my brother-in-law. I can squash it.
Check. What was the thing that kept your team constantly inspired after creating so many designs, so many images? How did you guys constantly maintain that inspiration for the new?
Well, team members in the room can speak to this. I feel like it's because we had so many talented people working on it together. So, well, yeah, I guess even at Whiteboard, we're kind of that way, but we always had all designers. It was just in the last couple of years that we added a project manager or a business person. So we were always, anywhere from 4 to 10 different designers who were all talented, and they just loved working together. And I guess kind of having that people come in and work for 2 or 3 years and then move on helped keep that freshness. But I don't really know other than that. We just tried to create kind of an environment that was focused on the work. What would you guys add to it? Anything? Thank you.
I get to work with Paul, and I think Paul, what I've seen from Paul's creative leadership is just work ethic, like a consistent. He shows up if we have a problem, if we're stuck working on an idea. He will literally just like go to the bookshelf and find a stack of books, and he'll go through and he'll spend hours looking for things that he thinks will help get us through that block. It's like a humble way of working, but he's got decades of good taste and a catalog of designers and design history, and he's just so good at going back and finding things that are relevant and kind of curating those things to spark new ideas. So I think it's not magic. It's just hard work, and he shows up really well that way.
Thank you, Mark. That's why he's here. He doesn't really work with me.
What's your tip on figuring out that balance between pleasing clients and making work you believe in?
Still haven't figured that one out. But it's true. I mean, there's so many times that you're like, as a design team, this is it. And then the client's like, no, never mind. And move on. I feel like at this point in the career, my career, I work with so many talented people that it's not really a problem, because there's going to be 5 solutions that are all like, well, that one's amazing, and that one's kind of great, and that one could be really good. So I don't know about that. I do feel like on our part, one thing we've never done very well, except maybe when we did the one idea, solutions, is to provide the clients a framework to look at the work and a way to talk about the work, because everybody will revert to their own opinion, their own taste. And they naturally want to like it for the most part because it's representing them somehow. but it's really usually pretty irrelevant to the business goals that need to be accomplished, and become, really all about decoration and their personal taste. So I feel like if you can find a way to nicely guide someone instead of saying, hey, your opinion's stupid and it doesn't really matter, to kind of say, look, your clients are really the clients that we're going for. So will this work for them or not work for them is where the conversations need to go. Now, I'm telling you to do something that I still haven't figured out how to do. But it also helps you get really great clients, really amazing people who are smart and want the best thing. There's been plenty of times that I thought they were being silly and picking their own taste, and then when we did what they asked to do, it actually made the project better. So I don't know, it's just kind of messy. I don't know I guess it's like music, where you've got these 4 people together playing well, and this 5th person comes in, and you're like, oh no, this is not gonna work, but then it can. I don't know, that's probably my metaphor for it. Sorry. I think I'm starting to realize I don't have any answers, so this is just Q, lots of Q.
You spoke a lot about going through different transitional periods, and I wanted to know, how did you handle some of those difficult transitions, and what decisions led to some of these beautiful breakthroughs that I could see? What helped get you from that stage to the next?
So there's probably a lot of different answers for sort of each of those chapters. Are you speaking mostly about the creative work, or when you say like difficult things?
It could totally be something that's personal. I don't have to share that, but I just know that you touched a lot about having seasons where you're going from one place to the next, and some of those things look like they were a setback, but it felt more like a setup. And I just want to know, I guess, how did you handle that situation? And was there maybe an advice that someone gave you, or something that you discovered along the way that helped get you prepared for maybe the next transition?
Okay. So I feel like some of the best things to happen came through the friendships and the collaborations and the people that I worked with, because that's what I meant. Like when you have a setback and you all kind of come back together and you're like, the client did and said this, so are we crazy? Are we that far off? Did we really just miss it? To just have people with you, like Matt Greenwell, I don't think he's here today, he's worked with me for a long time, and he's always said, like, I don't care what we do together. If you want to dig a ditch, I'll dig a ditch. I just like you and I just want to work with you. And so I think that is indicative, and that sort of helped me to see that spirit as you kind of go through the transition periods. But it doesn't really make it easier per se, and it's kind of that thing that everybody tells you when you're growing up, like, frankly, the failures are a lot more interesting stories to tell, and then it makes the success, kind of more important, like, after all that. So I don't know that that's an answer either.
Will you tell us about your time with on Sagmeister?
Thank you. Using the slide. So I first got to meet Stefan Sagmeister in '97. He came to give a talk in Knoxville, and us partners and Peg went up to hear him talk because I'd read about him in a magazine before the internet was around. And so I knew about him. And he had a really diverse portfolio. Like, it didn't look like the same person did it, and that was kind of against the style of the time. Like, if you were an agency, you had sort of a look and feel for most of your stuff. And we got to talk to him afterward because it was just kind of a small gathering, and he was really a nice person. And so then when a conference came up a couple of years later, it was in Las Vegas. Well, it felt cheesy and stupid, and everybody's talk was kind of, look how amazing I am, here's my great work. And I was reading through all the descriptions thinking, like, stupid, stupid, stupid. And then he had a talk of, can graphic design touch the heart? Great film, great literature, great movies, all move us, but does design do that? It doesn't do that. So I went to go hear his talk there, it was very different than I expected it to be. But he was very gracious. I talked to him for a while afterwards, and I said, hey, I don't even know what to think after that talk. It was very different. Would you be okay if I emailed you and could ask you some questions later? He was like, great. So we got a correspondence going through that. And then, was it your idea? I think it was your idea. She was like, why don't we have him come here and give that talk? I was like, well, that's a great idea. So we coordinated that. She's like, why don't we have him stay at our house? And I was like, he's a famous designer, he will not do that. And he did. He stayed at our house. And so we really got to spend some time with him that day and a half. And he was an absolutely lovely person. I don't know what happened in his life. He was the sixth of 6 kids from Austria, giant, tall guy, and just incredibly gracious. So here's the example of sort of the graciousness. We're leaving, we're late to go to the airport in Atlanta. We just moved into our house, it was brand new. The lady helping with the interior design brought over a guy to hang blinds who, we'd never met him before. They come in the house, they meet Stefan and all that. We go out to the car, we're in a rush. Stefan's like, oh wait, and he goes back in the house to say goodbye to the guy hanging the blinds, who we didn't even know, it wasn't even a friend of ours. It was just like, that's so awesome. So then I had that opportunity to do an internship at age 34. my wife, I was burnt out of creative, and my wife said to me, why don't you ask Stefan for a job? And I was like, yeah, nobody's asking Stefan for a job. But then that gave me the idea, like, well, what if I applied for an internship? Then he'd know, like, I'll do anything. I'll get coffee, or I'll end up going to Comcast to get a dongle, and that's what I did. Then maybe he'll have me. And so, you know, he wrote back this very nice letter, like, oh, that's great, I'd love to have you, but our internships are booked for a year at least. And the deal is, it's free. You come and live in New York somehow, I don't know how. You come to work every day, I'll buy you lunch every day. And so I said, I'd love to do that, put me at the top of the list, thinking I'd hear from him in a year. It was like a month later, he's like, hey, like I said, we have a lot of international interns, and our current one has to go back home. Her mom is sick, back to Italy. So I need somebody for a month. If you want to come, I know it's kind of short notice. And so I go home to Peg. I'm like, man, it's such a bummer. I can't go. Trying to finish my thesis project, my thesis show. I'm teaching a class, and it's about exam time. I have clients, those two. And she's like, are you a moron? Go. And so I got a ticket that Monday. That was Friday. I got a ticket and went on Monday. And got to work with him. He was really only there for about 5 days that I was there that month. But that's where it was really interesting to watch him, a designer and an intern, in his house. It was his apartment. We're in his living room. That's where we worked. His bathroom and bedroom were right over there. It was very weird. Is that enough? If you ever get to meet him, he's absolutely lovely.
What do you do when you feel like your creative work is falling flat, or maybe you're not even maintaining your own internal standard for yourself? Is it a process of stepping away? Is it going deeper in a different way? Is it community? Is it research? Go back to the master's level.
It's probably a combination of all of those things. And there are just sometimes it just doesn't get there. The timeline and the budget constraints and the hours, you're faking it in the presentation. This is great. But yeah, for me, it's mostly relying on other people. It's really, now, particularly with Whiteboard, is, you know, we have our brand team, which is about 9 of us, but then there's this whole network of 35 minus 9, whatever that is, 26. Other people that you can really bounce things off of and troubleshoot. And it really is interesting to get a perspective from somebody else. So like with Crew, one time early on, I did this project where I was using glow-in-the-dark ink. It was going to be so cool. I was letterpressing it. Well, glow-in-the-dark is a powder, and you mix it into the ink. And that did not go well on a letterpress with sort of fine details. So I could print maybe like 7 to 10 posters, and I'm supposed to do 1,000. And I would have to clean off the press every 20 prints or so and then reapply that thing. And it was just like I was ready to kill myself because it wasn't going to get done in time. It wasn't looking good. And crew just showed up, knew I was in a bad place. It was like, I can help. And just something about that was like, okay, we can do this. So I don't know, that's kind of a strange correlation when you're creatively stuck. But I do find it really, for me, I feel much more creative when I can kind of let that go and just do something completely other. So like traveling is really very inspiring because I stopped designing, don't worry about it, just experience a new place, a new food, new people, and it just really gets a lot of things going for me. So I don't know that.
Where's your favorite place to travel?
Italy, always Italy. Nowhere else. I don't have to go anywhere else. Just there. All right, one more or we're done? One more.
If anybody has one.
Food in my life. That is a very good point. That has become my new creative outlet because thinking about work and doing work all the time, and then going home and thinking about work and doing work, was a very therapeutic to discover making and creating something else. It has a lot of similarities for me, but that's been my creative outlet. I really enjoy it. I enjoy doing it. I don't always enjoy the result. Is that a good enough answer, or am I missing this? That's not a good enough answer.
I think it's got it touches your heart.
It does, yeah. We're at time here. Who invited you? All right. Thanks, everybody.